I'm not a rich person, but I live a rich life because I actually do what I really want to do. And I'm happy to be paid for something I enjoy. Your most important people are the people within your team. If you are not preparing for a one-to-one, don't expect your people to prepare for their one-to-one or their next client meeting or the next face-to-face.
Welcome to the Grow Up Podcast. This is Dan, your host. And I wanted to start by saying that we screwed up. We had an episode with the wonderful Alex Falzon, and we did lose some video footage, so we weren't able to put in the video episode. The episode is still on Spotify. It's called All About Sales. Check it out. Really, really good conversation. But out of every misfortune, you can turn it into an opportunity. So we got Alex back for a second episode, and it's going to be a special one. Because we just decided it now, by the way, before the episode started, that we are not going to do a normal me asking the questions and Alex answers, but rather we're just going to talk and ask each other questions, which can be difficult, revealing, obnoxious, and every other term under the sun.
So first of all, thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome back.
And I think we agreed one question each.
One question each, and we'll bounce it off, right?
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Do you want to start?
I'll start.
Okay. Well, it was my first question, so.
Okay. So,
do it.
So you started your own thing, right? Recently.
Yes.
What's the one that scares the shit out of you?
The one thing? So far, the only thing that scares me is there are two things which are joint first. But the one that scares me the most is the not knowing when the next thing is going to come, like when the next project is, right? So it involves me chasing the next client to make sure that kind of there's always something in the pipeline. I've been blessed so far, like I'm 4 months in and I've got 3 clients which have given me a steady conveyor belt of work coming in. And I feel that I really enjoy seeing the evolution of the company that I'm working with, right, or the organization, or the leader that I'm working with. So my biggest fear is not knowing whether or not there's going to be work in the pipeline.
So that's being very honest. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's the only fear. And obviously, because on the back of that, I've got a family to feed as well at the end of the day, right? So that's probably where the fear stems. But that's a good question.
If you had to eliminate fear from it, how would it feel?
Yeah, it would feel like.
So if you had to remove fear out of this equation, how would it feel? Your own business.
Awesome. Awesome. Like I don't think that I would go back to a conventional 9-to-5 job. I'm not saying I wouldn't go back to employment because employment has its perks, because it's also quite lonely having your own business sometimes because it's just you. But 9-to-5. I don't see me doing 8 hours a day. I have days where I do 16 hours. I have days where I do 3, depending on the work. Good question.
So I have other questions, but obviously I'm going to wait for your question.
You started off with Jesus Christ, you just went giga emotional straight away. But thank you, that's a good question. My question is, what is the most... So you've been around the block now for about 4 years, right?
Yep.
I think you started pre-COVID or
2020.
Just 2020, I think, yeah. What is the most common issue or challenge that you see that's really hard to fix with directors locally or CEOs, like founders? What is the most common issue? And then I'll share mine so far.
Okay, that's a good question. The most common challenge is probably the gap when someone is doing something and then he's asked to step up into a leadership role. I think that is a big gap. I think the size of the island doesn't help us there because most of the businesses are family owned. So although you are not trained as a leader, you're expected to lead the company because you're the next person in the family to take over, or you're just your next in line.
Yeah.
I think there's a big challenge there, and I think there are a lot of people who start the leadership role probably on the wrong foot, and the pains they go through in the initial stages are awesome for people like me. So I think that is a challenge, which is a big opportunity. So I think nobody teaches you to be a leader. Nobody trains you to be a leader. You're probably good from the technical side. You have a lot of experience, but you find yourself having to lead an organization because you are a family member or you're the next one in line. Whilst probably in bigger organizations, on a bigger scale, leaders are chosen for their skill set rather for their family ties. I think that's a nice challenge to have. I think we've seen improvement recently. I think people are looking for personal development. People are looking for training and leadership, but it's still a major challenge. It's still a major challenge, especially with organizations, with companies that are now moving it from second to third generation, where probably the person now leading the organization is very far off from the vision that the founder had. So the idea why the whole organization started, the purpose of that organization has changed from one generation to another. So I am leading an organization which is the same name, probably with the relatively same people, but I see the organization differently to how my father or my grandfather used to see.
It's really interesting to put it. I don't know where I just had this conversation about generational transfer of leadership. But the family-owned businesses that survive tend to no longer lead the company, and they get into a board and they hire a CEO to run it for them. And those are the ones that are have a much higher percentage of survival compared to businesses that inherit leadership because they're family ties.
Yeah, but Dan, you know better than me, so trust and leadership go together. So in order to be a great leader, you need to be able to trust.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you are not trained in that element, so you're used to managing a small organization, it's very difficult to trust your organization in someone else's hands. So you're getting someone from the outside, a CEO, and you're asking him, I'm going to trust you with my baby. Yeah, I've lived all my life in this business because I used to come here with my parents, whatever, and now I'm giving it to you. And what happens to me? So what is my purpose? I've always lived in this organization. Now you're taking away something, and what's next for me? So it's not an easy one. It's not. Exiting yourself out of the organization is also challenging because you're used to working a lot of hours when it's a family business, and obviously you have to let it go in somebody else's hands, but find something else to do.
It's all down to what your goals are, I think. If your goal is to continue, if you have a family business and you're listening to this show and you're kind of a bit lost of what's going to happen, I think it's all down to what your goals are. If your goal is to be a businessman or a business person or businesswoman, to be inclusive here, if your goal is to be a business person, you cannot entrench yourself in one business. You need to be able to detach yourself and move away from the operation. You can stay on the board or whatever, but that's one way of doing it. If you want to be an employee within your own business, then that's the way you would run it, and you would be involved, and there's the emotional attachment of it, right? But so I've always given that advice. It depends on what you want. But most people say, I want my employees to be more accountable, and I want my employees to be more capable at doing their job. And the most underlying reason why employees perform a certain way is because usually the founder is too involved in the day-to-day. And it's such a common trend that I've seen with speaking to so many different founders over the last 4 and 5 months that I would love for people to have more self-awareness around that. If you want your business to operate and scale better, move away from it for a bit, step in when you need to, but you need to relinquish that level of control.
If I can latch onto that, I think one of the main challenges family-owned businesses have is that the person taking over internally, he challenges himself or she challenges himself. Am I worth this role? Mm-hmm. Am I getting it because it's blood or because I deserve to be here? And that is not an easy challenge because obviously most of them are still trying to prove themselves.
there's almost that sensitivity to what you're saying, right? Am I good enough? Did I get the job because I deserve it, or is it because my dad was the person who created the business, right? It must be very hard. It must be quite difficult to
and earning people's respect is even tougher.
Yeah,
because you would like to be you like to earn your respect because you are capable of doing the job. Whilst most people say, you got the job because it's your family business. Mm-hmm. So it's even tougher.
And most people, that's how they feel about it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, it's still, if the business is still doing well and you've taken over, you're obviously doing something right.
Combined to that, the higher you go in the organization, the lonelier it is.
Yeah.
So can you imagine taking over a company that has been founded by maybe a generation or two, with probably different principles, different goals, different purpose. So now you have to make it your own, and you're already feeling insecure if you deserve to be there, and it's very lonely. And who do I speak to?
Yeah,
and that's probably why coaching today is becoming more popular with CEOs, because it's a space where people can be themselves and can be vulnerable and can be honest and feel naked, if that's the word, and be open about their challenges
and bounce off their thoughts and like put them to light and all that. There's also one thing that probably is worth to mention, is that if like some people that take over from their parents to run the business want to change the business, but their parents are still around and there's still that influence of no, we've always done things this way, this is how you should do it, and there's that also that kind of that dissonance of attempting to modernize but being limited by kind of the overbearing shadow that's still there, essentially.
And someone comes to mind at the moment. So I'm coaching, and this person has this internal struggle. Am I doing it differently because I want to sort of have a mark on the business, or because I really believe that it should be differently?
Yeah.
And that is not an easy one. So it's not an easy, especially as when the parents are still in the shadows.
Yeah.
And again, this is a space where you discuss and say, listen, if it was your own business, you started from scratch, would you do this? Would you do that? And that gives you a bit of an idea of.
And something that I've realized now that I'm attempting the self-employed route in life is that. So I advise businesses what to do, and I know it's the correct thing to do, but then I don't do it for myself because I'm too scared, or maybe I don't want to show off, or I don't want to work on my branding or my marketing. I don't want to go too detailed in terms of my proposal. I don't want to structure it too much, right? So then I ask myself, am I a hypocrite because I'm telling people, I'm giving people this direction, which is scientifically proven to be the best way to do X action, but then I'm not doing it myself. So what's wrong with me?
When did you feel last? When do you feel like this feeling? When did you feel it last?
This morning. it's that often, right? Because
tell me more about it.
So the way I am as a person is I'm very intuitive, and then I run based. So I can't structure what I know on a piece of paper.
Okay.
I've always been a generalist, so I don't have a specific thing. Like I wouldn't say like you would say, I'm a sales coach. I'm just give me a problem and I will solve it. Give me a problem and I tell you if I can solve it or not, and if I can, I'm gonna.
And someone else's problem is better than yours.
Yeah, I'm more comfortable solving someone else's problem. I'm shit scared of solving my stuff.
And maybe you put it at the end.
Yeah, I procrastinate and I don't I literally just downplay it, or I tend to try and forget about it, or I'll be like, I'll do it later, and then I'll leave it last minute. So I need to get over that. It's still a learning phase, a learning process for me. And obviously I put clients first, clients' work is always paramount because there's deadlines and I need to achieve them, and there's reputations to uphold and all that. But for me, that's kind of like right now.
So you moved from a 9-to-5 job to a self-employed, right?
Yeah, essentially.
And some people picture self-employed like the best thing ever. You're on your boss, and then you can do whatever you want, and you can have coffees at 11 and maybe go for a massage at 3.
Yeah.
But in reality, it doesn't happen, no. So if you look back, is your honeymoon period over?
I don't think there ever was a honeymoon period. Like the first month before I actually set up the business was a scramble, because I just was reaching out to my closest circle of people and trying to see kind of if there is a need and kind of do market research essentially. So I went on So I figured out my sales process before I figured out my product, because that's how I've always done it. So I first started talking to people, figuring out what are the common themes and the common problems, and then I designed my value proposition.
Okay.
And I got a lot of no's in the process. Or I wouldn't have to say they were no's, but I got a lot of like, so what is it exactly that you do? And I wasn't able to answer that question. Now I am able to answer that question. I've got my value proposition and all that. And I got like my pitch, it's there. So that was like the first month. And then the second month was like, okay, so now I need to figure out kind of how much do I charge? I had my first client. Like, I don't want to charge too much because I don't want to sound greedy. I want to make sure that I'm there to help, So selling the problem, not the solution and all that stuff. And then into my third month, I'm like, okay, so what's next now? So do I get more clients? I don't want to overburden myself. So there's not been a honeymoon period at all. They've all been exciting in their own way, but they've also been very challenging. To start off with, I think it's just there's a lot of mental gymnastics you need to do. I'm not saying it's like I think the entrepreneur life is great for me, like for the way I operate as a human being, because I'm haphazard and I do that. Like I have days where I don't feel like doing anything. I have days where I'm like just hyper focused and I just want to get stuff done. So there is that element of being your own kind of boss, but you are your clients. Your clients are your boss essentially.
When you look back, then, so if you look at like these 4 months. 4 months, you said 4 months?
Yeah,
5 months.
Mid-January.
So what was that one day that you really got excited about what you're doing? So what happened during that day?
I don't think there is one day, but like whenever I meet
but if you look back, there's a particular day, maybe you say,
I think I just closed, like when I closed my first client.
Zone,
when I had my first client say, okay, let's start, like do this for me. I was like over the moon, driving home, like listening to nice music. I was like, I got it. It's happening. I've managed. And I'm not the most confident of people. Like I doubt myself quite a bit. And I doubt myself every step of the way. Like I know my value and I know what I can deliver, but I say because I talk too much as a person. Sometimes I'm like, did I say too much? Was I overbearing? Like, did I oversell? Did I promise too much? And then like, oh no, I have to kind of deliver. So, but no, yeah. So probably closing my first client was.
I have more questions for you, but it's your turn, I think.
They didn't ask a question.
I did.
We're still going on it. I thought of my next question. Okay. How do you think you're going to evolve your business so you don't get bored in the next 5 years?
That's a good question.
Keep the mic close, by the way.
Okay, so I get easily bored, and my attention span is very, very, very short. So I think what I do at the moment is try to evolve, try to be a bit different over the years. I think the original idea which I started off with is very different today of what I do today. One thing I think excites me, which obviously goes against boredom, is involving others. So involving others in the process, empowering others to deliver training, which I have created myself. Giving others the opportunity. I think sometimes we forget what we have achieved. It becomes a bit the norm. And then you give someone the opportunity to give a training session on your behalf, or give someone the opportunity to earn some money on the side, and by giving some contracted work. And the appreciation you get reminds you how exciting it was in the first place. And that is like revives the perspective of everything. So I think the idea is to involve more people. The biggest challenge I have at the moment is how. Should I employ more people, or should I just remain me and Andrina and then subcontract? Do I have the guts maybe to employ someone else? Because I've managed people for donkey years, and it's something I don't really miss. So I'm excited about the fact that I can be whoever I can be in my business. Obviously, the more you employ people, the more you have to sort of provide for the organization, and maybe not always providing the work that you like to do yourself. So you maybe get that piece of work for that person within your organization, maybe. So I think I didn't work this out, but definitely when I work with others, likes of Greta, Carl, Alfred, I really get excited, and the fact that they bring things to the table, they bring new things to the table, brings joy and less boredom. I think that the future is to work with others. How? We'll see.
Interesting. Looks like you need a scaling coach. you know a guy.
I mean, I've given this a lot of thought, and I've spoken to people who have gone down this route, and I live a rich life. I'm not a rich person, but I live a rich life because I actually do what I really want to do, and I'm happy to be paid for something I enjoy.
Yeah.
Obviously, scaling it up, maybe I might be doing lesser of what I like to do, and more of an organizational role.
What would be the best possible outcome of doing this for you? Like, what would it look like? That would keep you happy, but you also get what you're trying to achieve here, what you're saying.
The best outcome is I work with people who excite me as clients, and in the process be able to work with others. So I would work with a project for a client which I like, which I think we can add value to each other, but in the process I'm not doing the whole thing myself. So maybe I'm getting people involved maybe in the beginning, maybe someone at the end, maybe someone will help me bring the project together at the end, maybe reporting. So I think that excites me. Excites me is I really work in those moments with those clients which give me most fun and enjoyment.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
So for example, to give you simple terms, I enjoy the delivery of a workshop.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy preparing for it, but I'm not super happy in just preparing that extra bit of making sure that the T's have all the crosses and that the logos are fine,
the visuals,
and make sure that the table and the setup is already there, ready. I'm not good at that. So maybe sometimes I'm not good at maybe the introductions, meeting the individuals one-to-one and listening to their story before starting the train, and then collating all the information. I'm not super excited about that. So I would like to live a richer life, meaning I would like to do more of what I like.
Okay.
And maybe have the opportunity for others to grow in the process. So maybe someone else would get excited about doing one-to-one interviews. Maybe someone likes to collect all the information, puts it in a report, a nice flashy report. I think that would excite me. And maybe thinking big, building such a big brand that maybe eventually bringing new partners in the organization. I don't know, thinking of an organization which is bigger than it is today and having such a strong brand eventually that I can sort of partner up with other people and have a bigger impact.
Would you trust people with your baby?
I already do, to a certain extent, because I already give others the opportunity to train under my brand. So I give them the content, I give them access to most of the tools. I try to teach them what they have. So the baby is the content, the knowledge, the way to present it. So in theory, I am giving that partly away because I don't know if this person will use that in another training session, will use that content in another session, but I'm happy to share that. I'm happy to run that risk. So I do let the baby, maybe not the whole process, but I'm happy. I think it's not trust is not a big issue for me.
I have more questions, but I'm going to play your card. But I have more questions.
Okay, you spoke about confidence. Tell me more about it. So what does this role, this part of your life at the moment, what triggers the lack of confidence? So at the moment, Daniel,
so
in this place.
Confidence, I think when I was younger, I was very masking a lot of. I wore this mask of being very, very confident because I was deep down, had a really, fragile ego. And because I was overconfident, people would always point it out. They'd be like, oh, you're confident. You're so, and I still do it. Like some people that I haven't met in a long time, be like, oh, you're so confident. Like, or like you talk about being humble. You're kind of. So I guess I've probably evolved to not be confident just because I don't want people to think that I'm this braggy guy or whatever, because I'm not. Like I just like to talk.
So if people had to see your true version of yourself, what would they see?
They would admit themselves to a mental hospital very quickly.
No.
I think there's a lot of.
So what's the real Daniel? So
the real
Daniel is without the mask.
The real Daniel is excited about everything, about life, and intrigued about just the way the world works and the way the world operates. And interested in trying new things and wanting to and then sticking to things he enjoys and then abandoning hobbies and all that stuff. So I jump from one obsession to another, and the ones I like I stick to, right? So podcasts, for example.
But the people out there that think of Daniel that's super confident, what's the version that they should?
So the people that know me well nowadays know that I am not confident. Like the people that know me well know how self-doubting I actually am.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that is I sometimes spend way too much energy focusing on what I could have done better rather than pushing forward.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So, for example, caring too much about what other people think, being scared of being rejected. I'm getting really deep into this, man. Fuck you. What's the next one? So being scared of being rejected, what other people think of me, about my opinion, being unsure whether or not what I've just said is going to work. Although, when it comes to work, I know what I'm talking about. I know my stuff. I wouldn't have gone as a self-employed, not knowing about, how operational structures are best optimized in certain industries, for example, and how HR documentation should be and how performance or underperformance conversations
Now you're putting up the mask again.
All that stuff needs to be...
Remove the mask again.
All that stuff I know about, but sometimes I just come across as should I have said that? Oh, that's not the best thing I should have said,
No, don't we all doubt ourselves?
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying that no one else doubts themselves. I'm just saying that maybe I doubt myself a bit too much. Because I will then go into days thinking about, it could just be a word I said or a word somebody else said that would be I would waste way too much energy.
But if people see your authentic self, how would that help you in your business?
I think people see my authentic self because I'm very honest. I am not this corporate lingo guy. I'm not going to be nice to you just for the sake of being nice. I'm either going to like you or I don't. And I like most people.
But being authentic is also remove the mask of the ego, the
so,
self-confidence, yeah?
Yeah, so I'm not scared of saying, listen, I'm not sure about this. I'm not going to... I was approached to do a consulting for a company. And when they started asking the questions, I was like, this is not for me. I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not an expert in it. You might as well pay somebody else who knows about this topic, because I don't want to ruin my reputation, and I would much rather they come back to me with stuff that I can engage in and enjoy doing, So I've turned down work already, even though at the start of a business you genuinely tend not to do it, but I'd much rather turn down work than do it badly.
Fair enough.
If that makes sense.
We spoke about this in the other podcast, building trust. Relation, you sell based on trust. So sometimes you can serve as a client, sometimes you don't, but at least you're constantly building trust. I think that's important.
Absolutely. And that's also a big, factor of the self-doubting. And I'm like, crap, did I break my trust because I said this, or maybe I didn't deliver the work as portrayed initially, or maybe they had a different expectation, which it can be quite a common trend. You agree something, but they had a different expectation, so then you kind of need to adapt to it, which I'm fine with. But I'm just like, did I actually look like an idiot now? So that's constant questions, and I don't think that's just me. I'm pretty sure that every entrepreneur has gone through that, right? I don't consider myself an entrepreneur. I'm just a guy that's self-employed.
I find the word very difficult to pronounce.
And
I find it
word. What's it called?
Entrepreneur. Never mind. It's not a word I use. I think I prefer self-employed.
Yeah. Self-employed is
self-employed
easier.
is the easiest one.
Easier on the tongue.
On your own.
Yeah.
You mentioned So let's go back to what you said before, and you know I coach people, so I'm selling myself a bit, but I listen. And you said I don't exclude going back to employment. It doesn't feel like a parachute there. So you have a parachute.
No, it's not a parachute.
So if this doesn't go well, I just back to employment.
No, that's not what I meant. Like as in, like if an opportunity comes for me to be employed with a very good salary, I wouldn't turn it down because as long as the job fits what I enjoy doing.
Fair enough.
So if it gives me room to flex my entrepreneurial spirit, to make decisions by myself, where I'm not being micromanaged. And let's say I'm still coaching people, for example. It's a no-brainer for me. For me, it's not about the legacy of building a business. That's not why I did it.
Okay.
If that makes sense. A lot of people build a business because of legacy reasons, which is a completely valid reason to build a business.
Fair enough.
It's the legacy you want to leave behind.
So why do you start your own business?
I started my own business because I just want to do what I want to do.
Okay.
Which is what I enjoy is lifting others up, is improving the business landscape of my community, which is locally for now, but I've done it with international companies and I would enjoy doing it as well, seeing that light bulb moment when people's eyes light up and be like, that's what I need to do to go to the next level. That for me is like the most fulfilling thing ever, right?
And you've been micromanaged in the past.
Oh yes, I have, yes. Being like, so I've had bosses which have micromanaged me and I have bosses which have not micromanaged me and I've always flourished under those that haven't. And I've not done bad under those that have, but I've just had a really bad time doing it,
They teach you a lot, huh?
No, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I've learned more under the micromanagers, in a way. But my stress levels and my nervous system, like dysregulation that I had to learn I remember when I moved from a micromanager to a manager that kind of just empowered me and let me do my own decisions. It took me a year and a half to adapt. Like my body shut down, like genuinely. I was sleeping more, I was tired all the time because I went from a high state of stress all the time, as if somebody's literally planting their chin on my shoulder and watching every step I'm doing, to, I don't care, just do whatever. And then, let's just do what we discussed, and then we'll go through, and if you make a mistake, it's fine. That's a big shift.
Do you feel, or maybe I'm reflecting this onto you, but maybe it's me. Do you feel that the self-employed entrepreneur, as you said before, journey sometimes is because you want to do your own thing?
Yeah, that's
and maybe you've been micromanaged in the past, and you're ready to pay the price of being your own boss. But having all the, as we said, the fears of what's coming up, what's next.
But I'll tell
do
you
I have
this,
enough work?
Yeah, so that's the fear. That's one. But I'll tell you this: if I had to go back to working with like the bosses that made me feel valued and gave me that feedback and that direction, I would, if I knew that they were going to be there forever. But the reality is that if you're working for a corporation, people move on.
But so what you're doing now, does it? I'm gonna be very brutal in this.
Yeah, go for it.
So we can.
No, we're not cutting anything out.
So is this a stopgap?
No, it's not a stopgap.
So until you find the right boss with the right salary?
I'm not looking for jobs, so
okay.
I'm not looking for work. What I'm saying is, hypothetically.
But if it comes along?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. And whatever you've built here, you're poof.
But it won't go poof, because the skills I've learned and I picked up and the clients I have are still going to be there, right?
Fair enough.
So
okay.
That's the way I look at it.
Pushing you to stay in the self-employed job.
So I preach to my clients, if they're a founder, do not attach yourself to your business. Your business is a means to an end.
True.
So that's the way I approach it. It's a means to an end.
True.
As long as I'm enjoying what I'm doing, because I'm not doing it for the money, right? The money is a byproduct of me helping others.
True.
Right?
True.
But what I'm doing is is something that I enjoy. So I'm building really good relationships.
But you don't do it for the money, but your major fear is not having work tomorrow.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I have a family that I need to provide.
The money.
The money is definitely. I'm not saying the money is not a factor. It's not the main factor.
True.
Yeah, I'm not doing this to be rich.
No.
If I wanted to be rich, I would go and do something else.
Like?
I don't know. I would figure it out. If I wanted money, I would figure it out. There was a guy in the US. I came across this on a short, on a reel or a TikTok. I forgot which one. And there's
so many of them now.
Yeah, there's so many. And I watch so many of them as well, because I'm obsessed with kind of the digital media direction.
Uh-huh.
It is purely educational. I just want to figure out like the customer behavior, the consumer behavior rather. Anyway, there's a guy in the US. They had a school project in business school, and they were told to come up with the most wild business model to make money. And this guy came up with a business model as a project, not real, right? This guy came up with a business model to sell tumbleweed.
Oh.
And the procurement of the tumbleweed was he would go and drive into the desert, pick up the tumbleweed, and sell it to movie studios. So that was what he chose for his project, right? And then they checked in like three years later. This guy dropped out of college, of business school, and was making millions. And he was the sole provider to all of the movie studios in the US of tumbleweed. And he started doing that, right? So you can make money off of anything if you have the vision and you figure out what the opportunity is. But so that's why I don't call myself an entrepreneur. I don't want to build a business that makes a lot of money. I just want to do what I enjoy and be able to sustain me and my family.
Fair enough.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing it for the money. The money needs to be there. Like I'm not, we don't, there's still mortgages to pay. There's still bills. I still want my daughter to have a birthday party and all that stuff, right? But it is not for the money. That's not the sole output why I do it, why I do what I do. If that makes sense.
In fact, if I can link to that, I think what I do is a bit for success, sort of leave some sort of legacy. And legacy not because I want to be remembered of being great or something like that, but I believe that everything that I've built, all the content, maybe the ways of engaging clients, the way of doing things, is passed on somewhere. It's not lost. I think that is probably my biggest challenge moving forward, because if I remain with this current model, probably it will die out once I stop. So I have to look at ways and means of maybe including others or rebranding the organization to include others, so that there's some sort of legacy.
What's stopping you from taking action right now?
I have no buzz to do it. I mean,
you have no buzz, but you've been talking about.
I have no buzz in doing it now. I mean, it worries me in the future.
But it's niggling. It's there in your brain, right?
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy what I do, and I said I live a rich life because I do whatever I want in the business. Then you have to find the balance. So if you're including more people, you want to manage more people. Obviously, there are challenges there. So will that take me away from doing more of what I like? And
would you be managing more people? So if you take in, let's say you're on your own right now, right? You have a personal assistant and that's it.
Yeah.
If you take in 3 or 4 people that you trust, you're not going to be managing them because you trust them. Like your job would be to check in with them maybe.
I wouldn't say manage. I think leading the organization. So leading the organization would be obviously taking more time away from doing more of what I do at the moment. And I think there is an element of providing for the organization as well, which I don't mind because I love selling. But
so you would still be the main driver of getting in clients?
But then it becomes more of like, I need to get more. So I'm putting that pressure back on.
So how does that make you feel?
Maybe less happy than I am today.
Why is it? Because you'll have more stress.
Obviously the more costs you increase, the more overheads you have, the more you need to sort of provide and deliver. As you said, I don't do this for the money. Yeah. So growing bigger might mean more money, yes, but would I really enjoy it as much as I'm doing it today? So that's a big dilemma on my mind. But again, there's the challenge of the future. So if I leave it as today, I can spend the next 12, 15, 30 years enjoying it in this little small world. But then what happens after that? So should I be thinking about it today? I think that is my dilemma. But I still today, it's my 5th year, till today, sometimes I pinch myself and say, when is this bubble gonna burst? You know, when is it gonna stop enjoying doing this? You know, when will I wake up and realize that it's not as fun as I think? And I was having this conversation with someone who's done this for years, and he said, I spent 30 years feeling like that, but it was 30 years of enjoying what I did.
You know, I've started to get that feeling as well. Like when it's like, is this it? Is this the peak? You know? But then, like, surprisingly, the more people I meet, the more opportunities start popping up, and it's not, and now, like, and it's not opportunities that, like you said, like, because I'm not hard selling, like, I just speak to people, and people will be like, oh, you know, I could use your help with that, or actually, you know, I need some help with my KPI structure, or maybe I'm not sure exactly how to sell, like, can I have some coaching around that and all that, or what my sales funnel should look like, or like, I'm not really sure how my coaching structure should be in the business. And just from striking those conversations, clients do actually like start to come. So you're right in saying that. But the feeling for me is like, is this as best? Is it as, you'll have a good month and you're like, is this the best month I'm ever gonna have? And then I'm just gonna be on the streets.
And probably then you might share this. We're always in the business of doing better.
Yeah.
So sometimes what you did yesterday was exciting for the client, for yourself. But what you did yesterday and you did today is the same as yesterday. So you're putting pressure on yourself to create more excitement. So always trying to better your product, your service. So what can I do more of? But without knowing that is putting pressure, always. It's raising the bar, which really and truly sometimes you don't appreciate how high the bar, how you've raised the bar. And probably other people, when you work with others, realize maybe that, you know, it's up there. But we don't really appreciate to the full extent how much we push the bar. But we're taking the stress of getting up there and constantly living up to that bar, if not more. So I think that is, without knowing, putting pressure on you always. And like myself, my organization, my business is Alex Falzon, like it or not. There's a big attachment to it, so it's not like called something else, and people would look at my organization and exactly identify who's behind it. So that's also another big pressure. Maybe in the future rebrand the name. I don't know. That's another thing. Maybe we can discuss in the future.
Yeah, on the third episode when you come, we should host this podcast together because you ask really good questions.
Okay, now it's my turn.
Is it your turn?
I
go
think.
for it.
Okay.
I'm scared.
Okay. So a lot of people speak about work-life balance. Mm-hmm. What's your work-life balance like?
I don't. I've dropped that trope a long time ago. I disagree with work-life balance. I don't think you should have work-life balance. I think that you need to. You have harmony between the two. There's no such thing as work-life balance. You're either. There are weeks where you really need to work because it's crunch time, and there are weeks where you need to be able to set time and spend time with your family. But why not have both?
Good one. I think
it's
I agree.
Harmony, right? It's not balance.
I think everyone has his own sort of balance. Balance could be like this or like this. Yeah. And I think there's no one set work-life balance. You know, the standard. I think there are moments in life where you need to work harder. Some areas where maybe you work harder on the family. Well, you said you have a kid, no? Mm-hmm. And sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes we are at home, but we're not at home.
No, yeah. I work from home mainly.
So your kid's around, they want your energy, but you don't have it. What do you do?
So I feel really guilty when I go to bed at night, and then I just kick myself. No. Like, so for me, I think there is that. It's a very different world than the one we grew up in. You know, I didn't see my dad a lot because he was working very long hours to keep the family, you know, provided for. And
that was okay. It was
that was fine because back then that's what kind of the model was. My mom was at home, dad worked. So. Our generation that now we have kids, we don't have a mold that fits the current system. So for me, I try to create pockets of time where my daughter has full attention for me. And most recently, because I've gotten back into jiu-jitsu and going to train, I got her to come with me. So now I go and take her to the gym, and she gets to meet all the people there. And like, for example, yesterday was a public holiday. She didn't have school. My partner was in the office. So I had training in the morning. So I took her to the training session. She just sat there on the tablet, but she was watching me and rolling around. And then she was like, why don't you have a stripe? And I was like, because Daddy's shit at jiu-jitsu, that's why. But she just sat there and she loved it. And she was like, can we not go? Can we stay here? She made friends with a couple of people that are part of the community at the gym as well. And then we went and had a milkshake, So that's the work-life balance I was saying. Like, if I wanted to, I could have given my daughter to my mom for her to babysit while I was at training, and then when they pick her up, I was like, no, let's make it part of my life. So if I had to visit a client and my daughter is there and my partner is working, I would have no issues taking care. If it's a current client or a new one, but if it's a client that maybe we've settled in, etc. So. I engage her. I take her to the barber with me, for example, when I get my hair cut.
So now that you've started your own journey within your own sort of business, do you feel this so there's pressure to prove yourself from a business point of view? Yeah. Because I think that's what the biggest challenge. I think when I started my own thing. It was like, you need to prove yourself, you need to prove yourself, and everything is like, yes, I did, no, I didn't.
Who are you proving yourself to the most?
To myself.
Okay, who's the second person you were proving yourself to the most?
To myself.
So you didn't have anyone? Because I would say probably right now with my parents, personally, except myself.
I think to myself. I'm being very honest about this. I'm
interesting.
I'm not super proud of myself. So when I'm myself, I'm not super proud of myself. I think I criticize myself a lot, and even when there's a big win, I would always try to look for something which just puts me down, because that's the way. Because I always want to learn. Mm-hmm. But back to this. So when I started my own business, I had the pressure of proving myself to myself primarily, and also have young kids. So, and as you said, in today's world, the pressures on the parents are much bigger than the pressures on proving yourself as a great parent or a fantastic father are much bigger. So without knowing, we compare, you take your kids to this ballet and they do this and that, and you think about it, I don't take them anywhere. Am I doing the right? Am I getting them to miss on something? Ironically, the first few years are the toughest when it comes to the business. So you're giving more. And maybe sometimes you don't have the energy for the kids. So I also feel very guilty sometimes because I do not have the energy to play with them. And I just can't find it.
I read this quote where it says bad parents don't feel guilty. So if you're feeling guilty, it just automatically means that kind of where your losses are and where you've gained. So I feel very guilty sometimes, missed bedtimes. And it's not just because of work. Sometimes I get stuck doing something else, like playing a game or something, and I'm like, oh shit, I need to, But it's what you do to kind of rectify that. Like even sometimes I lose my temper, which I'm sure it happens to you as well. Like you'll be like, oh, stop shouting, stop arguing,
But summation of other things.
Sorry?
It's a summation of other things.
Yes. But then what I do differently then is I go and I say, I'm really sorry I raised my voice. I'm really sorry I give her a hug and all that. And we talk through what she did wrong. And then we've kind of worked through it, right? So for me, I give myself a break sometimes, but I do feel mostly guilty of missing out on stuff. Probably one of the reasons why I felt because when I left my full-time employment and went into full-time employment again, which was full-time in the office, one of my biggest issues was not seeing my daughter, because I was so used to seeing her most of the time and taking her to school and picking her up and and having her around and all that, and all of a sudden now I don't see her for days sometimes because I leave early before she wakes up. And I come home when she's probably asleep, and that was one of the biggest challenges, apart from all the other stuff, that we talked about. So there's a lot of guilt in that aspect, but then I make up with that. Like like in the past couple of months, I gotten much closer with my daughter now, because I'm able to kind of plan ahead the time, and I know, okay, if she's going to be coming back from school at this time, I'm going to try that by that time I don't book a lot of meetings and try to make them earlier in the day, for example. So there is some attention. We draw this picture or we do this, right? So it's getting better.
I mean,
it's ups and downs.
If I can share with you, I was hearing a podcast. I can't recall the guy's name, but it was really powerful. And he said he used to work with professional players, athletes. He used to sort of coach and mentor people, and he was out and about most of the time. And he used to spend very little time with the family. Mm-hmm. And one fine day, his daughter said, "Dad, we're happier not eating, but with you around." She said. And probably she was age 7 or something like that, and it made him feel super guilty. But what he did is continue doing what he ever wanted to do. And he told her, one day you will understand, not today, one day you will understand why I do what I do. And he said that many years later, his daughter spoke to him about that incident. She still remembered what he said in a moment. And she said, today I do what I want to do because of you. Mm-hmm. So although he felt super guilty in that moment that he wasn't being a great parent, because he believed so much in what he did and it made him who he actually is, he was also providing a good example to his daughter. So although he wasn't being a great parent or felt guilty of maybe not being the parent that goes to see her ballet or basketball every time, but being who you are, living a purposeful life, sends a strong message to your kids. Mm-hmm. And that made me a bit less guilty after listening to that.
I think I agree with you, but there needs to also be balance, like not showing, for example, my daughter had her sports day on Tuesday. No way I wouldn't have showed up there. For me, I would have gone, if it's planned ahead, if there's something like a ballet recital and stuff like that, I would want, because I remember as a kid, the first thing I did at sports day is look up to see where my parents are, and it can be a bit gut-wrenching if your parents don't show up consistently. If it's a one-off.
I think you're still looking for your parents in your business.
What do you mean?
Because you're proving yourself to them.
Yes, no, absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And it's quite common, because I've spoken to a lot of people on the show where they say that the hardest challenge for them to start their own business was their parents.
But what do your parents say about your business?
Well, now they're okay, because now they see that I'm actually... But before I started, go look for a job, it's stable and all that. And I was like... By the way, I was just laid off by my company, so I thought it's not stable at all. But anyway, so that was it. But now, now that I've landed some clients and all that, they're quite comfortable with it. Personally, my dad was quite supportive. He just always told me what he always says, which is don't rush into things. Do what you need to do. That his non-reactiveness to it gave me a lot of confidence. But my mom, obviously, as a mother, she worries and all that, and I appreciate that worrying. She's constantly asking. She's like, "I'm really worried. How are you doing?" But in a way, she also gave me that self-belief, that she also conveyed that she has some confidence, because she just wanted to know that I know what I'm doing, And when I explained to her my business model and this is what I'm doing,
but sometimes we don't know.
Yeah, sometimes we don't.
We know it's going to happen.
Yeah,
but how?
Oh yeah, so I've still not figured out the how.
And the last thing you want is people asking you how it's going to happen.
Oh yeah. So I pretty much bullshit my way through that answer with her initially. But as I said, the more I started speaking, I just went out and spoke to people. I just went on LinkedIn and started messaging people. I remember driving to film here and going through my phone and seeing who I can call on the way. And I'll just randomly ring people I know. Listen, by the way, I've gone self-employed. I'm doing this. Would you be interested? Or is there maybe someone you would know? I'll give you a nice little reseller agreement and all that stuff, and start building that chain of referrals pretty much. And, out of 100 no's, you get one yes, and that one yes is enough,
So you said you were laid off, which today is not a difficult word, as maybe being laid off.
I was offered voluntary redundancy.
15 years ago, it was like,
you
wouldn't speak about it.
Yeah. But I mean, having a 14 and a half year career, that was my only full-time job. And I wasn't laid off, so I wasn't told, like, pack your bags and leave. In fact, I was asked to stay. Yeah. Initially. First I was told to leave, but then it was asked to stay as well. But I was like, no, I'm just going to go now.
It wasn't just you, so sorry.
No, it wasn't just me.
It's a business decision.
Yeah, so in fact, the center now closes, or is closing in shortly.
So my question is, so how did you explain that to your parents?
I just told them what it is. And they were worried. I was like, no, don't worry, it's fine. The thing is that I, serving as essentially as an internal consultant for the last 4.5 years before I left the corporation that I started, as a frontline agent from, I was pretty confident in my skill sets. You kind of know what you're good at, and you kind of know what you know. And they're very, like, as a consultant, your problem solving skills have become very transferable to any industry you might want to work in. So I was pretty confident that I wasn't not going to find a job. So the question then changed from rather than if or what, will I find a job, to what kind of job do I want to work in? And the answer I kept giving myself was consult. You've been consulting for 4.5 years. So I tried doing something else, just didn't work out.
I rarely use that word because I think it's a tough word.
What is?
I don't give myself permission to say I'm a consultant.
Really? So I much prefer using the word consulting than coaching.
Okay.
Personally, because I love the whole consult. So for example,
but don't you think there's the word consultant is like butchered, used, and anyone can be a consultant.
Yeah, but anyone can really. Like you consult a doctor, you consult a dentist, you consult a painter.
To call yourself consultant, don't you need to have sort of an amount of respect first?
No, I don't see it that way at all. So I remember I had a client and he referred me to someone else, and when I told him, so what did you tell this person, just so I know before I have a chat? I was like, I told them, you're a problem solver, that you solve problems. You can do a lot, and they just need to pick what problem they want to solve.
But that doesn't feel and sound nicer, problem solver. Yeah.
That's what a consultant does,
I love that.
Yeah. So technically, I would be a coach-sultant, which is also a word.
Coach-sultant.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. It's an American thing probably, but because I do coaching as well. But the way I kind of present myself is the entire generalist package, right? So I can deliver training, I can do the coaching, but I would also do the muddy, the dirty work of creating documentation for you, setting the KPIs, putting the spreadsheets together, figuring out what the different algorithms are to work out what OKRs and KPIs are, for example, right? Figuring out what tech you need for your PBX system, figuring out what tech you need to manage your warehouse, helping you consult, because I've also got an IT background. So I graduated in IT before I went into banking. So I've got that bit of everything that I can manage.
You said, I know what I know. It's a tricky question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's my turn, but never mind.
Fuck it, just do it. It's my show.
You realize how much you know when you realize how much you don't know.
Oh yeah. So But
the question is, wait, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on. So you've been asked to sort of to leave the organization, and you know what you know, but our identity is a bit of everything around us. So we, when I think one of the biggest struggles when people go on retirement is that they lose part of the identity of being part of an organization, especially for many years. So Alex of that organization. Yeah. When you undress that, it becomes very vulnerable. So I would like you to go to that moment there when you knew who you knew what you wanted to do or whatever. Where was the moment when you started to sort of unlearn or realize that there's more of this that I need to know? So I'm sure when you jumped into this world, you go with a lot of ideas, but the first interactions with people, you start to sort of align yourself.
Yeah, so you adapt to the market, right? So certain things just won't work. So having worked in the international market, certain mindsets are very, very hard to instill here. Like, I wouldn't even waste energy doing it at first. I would do it later on, but you need to instill the fundamentals. So I find locally a lot of the fundamentals just don't exist. There's just not enough education out there around it. And that's kind of my mission statement, which is just elevate the operational excellence of the island. When I started to unlearn, probably 2 years before I left.
Wow.
So I was already kind of knowing what I wanted, like that I was not going to be here for the next. So I think when I was 12 years in, I was like, I'm not going to do another 12 years here, for sure. Like, I didn't want to. I wanted to do something different, you know? I felt that I had gotten as far as I was going to get for who I am as a person. Like, I would have never been a director of a center, you know? It required way too much work that I don't enjoy.
Fair enough.
And I've always had this, I think probably like every person that I've been under or has managed me, whenever I asked if I can do something, there was always this joking answer back. I was like, you're going to do it anyway, so I might as well say yes. So I've always done what I want. I've always gotten what I wanted. Either way, if I get it today or the next month, I'm going to get my way because I just refuse to do what I don't want to do.
Fair enough.
I've always been like that, right? So either way, I will figure a way of making something work.
But did you feel being out of the comfort zone before? So whilst in the organization, or you would say, I felt outside the comfort when I sort of like, okay, I'm just moving out of this now. So did you feel prior to that being out?
I felt out of my comfort zone when I moved from serving the UK business to then serving the international business as an internal consultant. Like the first term was business support manager, but I didn't really have specific roles to do, so I didn't have things to do. I needed to come up with ways to fix what was going wrong. So the first thing to do is you figure out what's going wrong, right? So I did operational reviews, risk reviews. You know, you understand what's going. You interview people, and people who are much higher than me rank-wise. I had to kind of figure out what they're doing wrong, you know, and all that stuff. So that was me going through the first 2 years of doing that. Was me going out of my comfort zone and saying, "Oh shit, I no longer have a prescribed role to do." Because before that, I did managerial roles for 7 years, but they were all prescribed managerial roles. So as a team manager, you need to grade X amount of calls, you need to do X amount of coaching slots, you need to be able to do disciplinarities, return to work when they're sick, book leave, check the resource, take takeovers if they're escalated. You know, as a learning manager, like a department head or whatever, I had to come up with the training runways. I had to design the training, make sure that we had the onboarding runway that made sense and it linked with the recruitment and with the training runway. And I handled the academy aspect of it, so where people were taking calls and we did coaching. So I had to coach the coaches, train them, document. So there was always prescribed. But then I moved into a role where there's no prescription because it was a brand new entity that was taking care of all the call centers. So all of a sudden now, I'm sitting with a guy that's like 4 levels above anyone who I've ever spoken to in the business, who's a managing director, and I'm having to tell this person, this is how our communications runway should be, this is how our finance function should look like, this is how we should do our next conference, this is the theme we need to work on, this is what our employees are saying, 13,000 employees are saying within the surveys, and this is the data model I should build, so it went a very big shift. So that was my comfort zone the first 2 years. So really leaving and doing this is the same thing. I'm just doing it for different people.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
And I've always wanted to be a consultant. Not always, but I've been wanting to be a consultant since 2017. I remember 2017 I created the inbox, which initially was going to be called Boss Consultants, with a very good friend of mine who I still train with to this day. Ben, if you're listening, I don't think you will, but still. Still good friends with the person. Obviously nothing came out of it, but we had started the process, and then I remember I had my daughter and just life got in the way. So I've been wanting to become a consultant for that long. So
can I be a bit selfish here and ask you
sure,
maybe something I can sort of steal, for a better word, from you? So where you used to work, the organization, the people are trained in a way that they have a different mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's something which I I like. So it's a particular mindset. I think it's the approach. It's the way. So
diplomacy.
For example, a simple term. So someone who used to work within your organization, and you ask them to do a cold call. So they moved in a sales job in another organization. You ask them to do a call, and they do it like that.
Yeah.
It's just no questions asked. Whilst most of people are super scared of making a phone call. So if I had to steal that, what's that one thing that organization used to do to really change the mindset? So what would need to happen for you not to be fearful of the phone, fearful of proactively looking for business, and just prospecting? I think this is...
it's a learned skill. I don't think that you're naturally... So I was shit scared of taking my first call with HSBC. I was genuinely trembling, but I did it. And the way I did it was, obviously there was a very comprehensive training runway before. It was 12 weeks, 6 weeks. Because 12 weeks in total.
How much of that is practice?
Out of those 6 weeks, you would do some role plays. You would have never taken a call up until that point.
With some meaning what?
So you would do role plays probably like the week coming up. So there was a lot of training in terms of procedural knowledge and crunch, and then you would do like role plays at the end of each day. You would do a role play to talk about that particular product. So initially you're already starting to practice.
In front of the others?
Yeah, in front of the whole class. So you've already started to practice some of the phrases like how can I help you today?
So if I'm scared shit of doing it, and I'm not liking the training because it's shifting me a bit, because people don't come in, I'll do this.
Yeah.
What keeps them going through the process?
I think it's the level of support.
Okay.
It's okay. Listen, you're gonna fuck it. It's your first call. You're gonna fuck it up. You're not gonna do a good job. It's the same thing that happens in most things. I've started jiu-jitsu again, and I was really, really anxious going back to the gym. So I trained for like 4 months. I was crap at it. I was still a white belt, and I started again. I stopped for 4 months, and I started again like a month and a half ago. And I was really, really anxious. And I remember somebody telling me, "You're gonna be shit for a year at jiu-jitsu. You're not gonna be good at it. Just do it. Be ready to be embarrassed."
But is it just that, or there's discipline involved?
I think the discipline comes after that, though. I think the discipline comes after. So I've always, and I still do it to this day, if you train your employees properly, some of them will still leave, but most of them will remain. When I took my first call, somebody was plugged in with me, and I had that sense of safety. But after the first call, the guy said, "Poop, I'm off. Keep taking calls." Right? So there was that bit of baptism by fire after 6.
6 weeks.
So you do 5 weeks of training, then you would do a role. The week up to then, you do a role play on the actual phone, but it'll be a coach, not a customer. So they would literally be in another room, or upstairs. For example, I remember this was 15 years ago.
Wow, cool.
So the person would be upstairs, and they would call me, and I would answer as if like, good afternoon, it's Dan from HSBC speaking. How can I help you? And then you would need to follow the procedure and deal with and they would have 6 or 7 different inquiries that they can pick and choose from. So you don't know exactly what's going to happen. So you need to have the procedures open like every other agent, right? So you need to have your procedures open, you need to have the systems ready, you need to action the bill payment, and then they would audit the system to make sure you've done it properly. They would listen to the recording of the call, and they would give you feedback. So it'd be a pass or a fail. If you fail it, you just keep doing it until you get it right. Simple as. And then once all the people pass that, you already have that tool. The tools are there now. You know what you're talking about. You know what you're doing. So now it's just getting over the fear of actually speaking to a real person. Because the first person could be... I remember my first person was a Jamaican woman. She was shouting because she was in a shop. She wasn't shouting because she was angry. She was shouting because she was in a shop, and I could not understand. Like, imagine this little Maltese kid barely spoke to anyone with a different accent than Maltese in his life. I was 19. And I have this Jamaican woman in the UK talking about like stuff that her car's bought, and it's like very first call, right? So it's kind of that I believe in baptism by fire. Like, it's just, you need to just keep pushing through the fear, push through the fear, and at some point you're just going to get used to it, Same with for me, I've never been an athletic person, but then going into a martial art where you've got sweaty men on top of you trying to choke you out, it feels really uncomfortable, but you just get more and more used to it as you go along, And I'm not used to it yet. I still suck at jiu-jitsu, but it's just going to be like that. Same with, starting my own business. You're going to get people that ghost you, people that don't even respond, people just say no. And at first it really stings, right? You'll be like, man, like I've got so much experience, I've got so much value to give. But then you'll be like, I don't even want to work for people that don't want to listen to me.
Agreed.
Like, if you don't see my value, I don't want to be here.
True.
That's kind of the position I'm in now. But the first month, you want people to like you because
you have to give someone who's listening to us who is struggling with his maybe sales team or customer care or call center, and he or she is not happy with the level of service.
As a leader or as an agent?
No, he's not happy with the people on the phone, or maybe they're not being proactive enough, or they're not. What advice would you give?
Don't blame your people, blame yourself. It's your problem, not theirs.
But what would you do about it?
So figure out what's wrong. And if you can't figure out what's wrong, make sure you have the structure to be able to figure out problems. So make sure you're tracking information, you'll be able to listen to calls, and your job is to help them get the support they need. No one comes to work wanting to do a shit job.
Fair enough.
Like everyone wants to try and do their best. So if they're not performing, as a leader, that's what you've been put in charge to do.
But
fix it.
Sometimes it's a belief system.
Yes.
So people believe that they shouldn't be doing cold calls, for example.
Then don't employ those people.
But don't you think that sometimes people come in with that, and then with training and coaching,
you can turn it around. Yeah, you can turn it around if you have the right training.
Because I'm sure most of the people you were used to working, or maybe most of them, were not super happy to be on the phone.
Yes, but the support system that was present whittled those people, the people that wanted to stay, it whittled them out. Because
when you say support is it just I'm here to help you, or is it?
No. You have a structured support system. So, for example, I know that
we go out together. There's
not even that. No.
There's some sort of team building.
So I know if it's my first month in the job with the bank, every day I'm going to have a coaching slot. Every day a coach is going to come to me with a recorded call that I've done, and is going to give me very specific and granular feedback about what I've done wrong and what I can do better and what I've done well. So you're reinforcing the good, and you are also looking at like EBIs. This is what you can do better, right? If you do that for a month, that is 30 days of coaching.
Fair enough.
On the job, right? So you're still doing the job, but you've got an hour or maybe half an hour a day where you are being given drip feeding technique, sales technique, customer service technique, right? And
it's like a peace of mind that the worst I can screw up is one day, because I'm going to be checked in next.
It's going to be checked.
There's a check-in.
Yeah. So I used to end up then, I remember when I then got like pretty good. And then sometimes you'd be like, listen, we're not going to give you coaching every day. Now it's every other day. So for you, you trust me, right? That's an achievement. Amazing. Or actually now we're going to do it every week, because the academy was like three months, I think, or something like that. 18 weeks or 12 weeks, something like that. 12 weeks, that's 3 months.
It's a big investment, but the academy, coaches, training.
It is a big investment, and we wouldn't see a return on investment before a year.
Fair enough.
But people stayed. Why? Because they were given support. People leave because they don't feel like they're being, like as I said, no one likes to leave their job. Everyone likes stability.
Fair enough.
So if people are leaving, if people aren't performing, and you are as a leader, you're scratching your head, it's your fault. If it's one person, yes, but
I think the most powerful thing you said is that you don't see return on training.
You're not going to see
within weeks.
No.
You have to happy to trust the process, and put money there, and then you know eventually it will come out.
Part of the conversations I have with my clients is that I don't believe in training, and what does that mean? I don't believe in doing a training session and then just thinking your team is going to suddenly like be successful. Training works as part of a package of more support and coaching and shifting a culture within a company.
Agreed.
And I tell them, like, don't spend money on training if you don't really believe in you changing as a leader. Agreed. Right?
Take a parallel with jiu-jitsu.
We
go once every 4 months. I don't think you're gonna.
If you go less than 3 times a week, just don't go at all.
Like
if you don't go less than 3 times, if you don't do at least 3 training sessions a week, and this is like what our trainer said, there's no point in going, because you just forget. There's no sustained development.
If I can link that to leadership, Simon Sinek, I follow. He says leadership's like brushing your teeth.
Yes.
You don't brush your teeth once every
Yeah.
so often and expect your teeth to be clean. So you need to brush your teeth 2-3 times a week.
It's like motivation. And a lot of people say, oh, because we did a motivation session 3 months ago. Like, fuck off. 3 months ago, are you serious? Like,
it should be part of a bigger thing.
It should be a daily. Like, so the first thing I say is like, how often do you speak to your people? Oh, we speak all the time. We go and do this together. And we go, no.
In fact, Dan, that brings me to the next subject. At the moment, I've just invested in a learning platform. So basically, all my clients moving forward are going to have access to sort of an app where I actually upload content, upload exercises, upload feedback forms. So between one training session and another, or one coaching session and another, there's work to be done. And there's a process that you need to follow in order to do the whole program. So I think you are right. A good training session puts up the vibe, increases motivation for a few days, hours. But you need repetitive exercises, repetitive behaviors to change.
And you know what it creates? And there's the word I always use that I'm probably like the biggest. So people say, like, how do you improve performance? And the answer is accountability.
Yeah, I agree.
If you don't have a sense of accountability as a leader, and your people don't have a sense of accountability towards their role, you will never reach the levels of success you want.
I can add to that, because in leadership training, I split this into 3. So it's self-awareness by the leader, external awareness by the leader, and accountability. I think those are 3 things that the leader should demonstrate in his organization. So first of all, he's aware of what's happening inside him. And then he's aware of what he is externing to his organization, and then be accountable. Because those are behaviors that you want your organization to replicate,
for sure,
to take on. But to your statement regarding performance, I add the environment.
Yeah.
I think leaders create environments where people can be better or worse. So you can have the same individual working in 2 different places. In one place he delivers more, goes beyond, solely because of the environment the leader has created.
For sure. A very, very smart guy, what's his name? Graham Corbett, Scottish guy. He used to be the operations manager. He still works with HSBC, I think, but very smart guy. And I remember I had just gotten my first managerial role, like officially, and I was like, have you got a piece of advice for me? Just like funnily, because he was a really good, like, nice guy to hang out with. He was like, you're as soon as you've donned the manager mantle, you're on a platform, and how you react is how you set the tone for your team to anything. So that's where the self-awareness came in, and the external awareness. So they go hand in hand. So how you react when you are stressed, or when someone comes to you with a fuck up or a problem, is how your team will start behaving.
And unfortunately, most leaders realize when it becomes a negative thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So they realize the power of their influence on the environment most of the times when they've done something negative. That's when they seek help.
Yeah.
But when you realize how powerful it is, being positive or negative around your people, then if you work more on the positive side, on how you behave, what feedback you give, how you react to feedback, how you just walk into the office every morning.
No, everything counts.
When you realize the power of that, you can use it in your advantage to influence the environment you work in.
And without going too much into it, like the one thing I've learned now is that people, the environments are stressful. Like there's been a shift in the market, so some industries might struggle a bit. So obviously the tensions go high. But if you're choosing to ignore what we preach about, this is not a belief. This has been backed by years of research. There are so many case studies of, performance being the highest when people are positively reinforced and all that. And people think, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. That's not what coaching is. It's not what performance management is. If you go to Netflix, they have a very, 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 very high performance standard, right? And they're very proud to say, like, we treat our teams as a sports team. You're either good for the job or you're not. And if you're not, you're fired, right? But they do it in the best way possible. They provide support, but then there's that sense of accountability I was talking about. So some people think, oh, we're like a family, but you shouldn't be like a family. You should be like a sports team. You should be holding each other accountable to your roles and to your responsibilities. And how do you do that? Building proper support structures, right? Have the right coaching conversations. Be vulnerable as a leader. When you fuck up as a leader, you need to say, listen, guys, give me some feedback. I need to change this because this conversation didn't go the way I wanted it to. Or maybe we're not performing. What are we going to fix? Going to one of your employees as a manager and say, listen, you've not really done really well this month. What's happened? Like, how can I help you? Rather than, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Sort this shit
out. It's your job to give them the tools to help out. And then there are situations that just the person just doesn't cut it. But unless you've explored and you've exhausted every avenue of support, you are no right to be able to judge that person. Right? So that's kind of what I try and say. And sometimes people say, but we don't have time to coach our people. Then you're in the wrong job. Then you shouldn't be a leader. Simple as. You should be an individual contributor. Goes back to your initial point where people are promoted into leadership roles when they are just really good at their job. Just something to add on, because you took the generational family-oriented business angle. But there are a lot of people that, like, for example, really good salesmen that are put into a sales manager job. Doesn't make them a good sales manager, because then all they're doing is just taking leads from their team and selling anyway. Like, a sales manager should not be selling. They should be managing the team. I agree. If somebody's a really good data analyst and you put them as a people manager, I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10 they're gonna suck. Because
but don't forget that most leaders need the urgent, or need the feeling of being busy. Because and being busy looking at numbers, being busy at selling the organization feels much more busy than speaking to see Dan is okay, coaching that guy, mentoring this one, taking this one for a coffee, have a chit chat with this one. That is not busy. Sometimes that is a fundamental mindset shift in a leader.
There is no one-to-ones. They don't happen. There's no
they happen when something's wrong.
Yes, when something's wrong, and when there's this.
I need a chat.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously that creates that sense of anxiety. So I'll answer the question with a solution to that, which is what I tell clients as well, is that's the power of a structured periodical one-to-one. So you have your one-to-one every month. So I know that on the first Monday of every month, I have a one-to-one conversation with my direct manager. Now, if you're shifting from a culture where you don't do regular one-to-ones into it, the first one's going to be very anxiety-driven. But if you present a document before and say, this is what we're going to be, this is the structure of the one-to-one, I want you to think about, so Alex, listen, I'm your boss. Alex, I'm going to start doing one-to-ones a bit differently because I really value your input as an employee. I really want you to develop and grow together with me as a leader. So the first session of the one-to-one, I really want you to think about what are your areas of strength, what are your areas of development, what you want to work on, what feedback you think your customers gave, think about kind of what were the good things you've done. Maybe you've supported a colleague with something, or you closed a really, really big client, etc. Right? And then I want you to also focus on how your KPIs were in comparison to your targets. Or like how your activity was in comparison to your KPIs. So now the person is prepared to go into that one-to-one. There's still going to be a bit level of anxiety. But in one-to-one, you're kind of planning the month ahead. You're not really doing any coaching most of the time. It's more of a planning document, because then the coaching comes after. You do that for 3-4 months. Your employee is now looking at performance the same way the leader is. Because they're thinking, in my one-to-one, I need to be able to articulate what I've done this month. So now I'm looking at my performance because I'm tracking it. I'm measuring what I'm doing.
Behaviors are more powerful than words.
Yeah, for sure.
And the way you prepare as a leader for your next one-to-one, first of all, the one-to-one should be held no matter if you feel like having that one-to-one, if you have nothing to speak about, it should be held just the same, because there's a structure. We don't hold one-to-ones only when there's a problem.
Yeah.
Because then you're attaching the one-to-one to a problem. So I think the important part is that there is a structure. So there's a regular one-to-one, but we take that one-to-one to a different level. We give it its importance. Your most important people are the people within your team. If you are not preparing for a one-to-one, don't expect your people to prepare for their one-to-one or their next client meeting or the next face-to-face. So I can be telling you, listen, you need to be prepared for the next client meeting. But if you are not preparing as a leader for the next one-to-one with the same person, what message are you sending?
Yep.
So I believe that if you shift a bit the mindset, I know the client is important, but who's the most important client?
I think as a leader, your client is your people, is your employee.
But we say that, but the truth is it's very hard to actually enforce that idea.
Yeah,
because
so
there's the client chasing me for that, and there's this compliance thing I need to do, and there's the presentation for that.
But you also talked about like the being busy thing. So it's the same. It's the same thing. It is absolutely an ego thing, and we've all experienced it. I've gone through it as well. Like sometimes just saying, "Listen, guys, I'm too busy. Like, don't ask me any questions." Yes, maybe because you are too busy, but also it is kind of an ego thing of like, you're below me and all that stuff. And whoever says, no, it's not an ego thing for me, you're lying. It is 100% a hierarchy thing. We're human beings, we're social beings, and there is absolutely a hierarchy, as there is with apes, as there is with wolves, and as there is with every other animal that obeys a hierarchy, right? Lobsters, Jesus, there's so many.
And I think we can link it back to trust.
Yes.
So one of the things I always did when I took a new team, I tried to eliminate the time wasters.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I used to say is, if you're copying me in an email just to cover your ass, I'm going to send it back. Because I remember I used to see a lot of managers who were busy chunking through emails, CC of CC of CC of CC of CC of CC. And they have to read all the emails because they fear of not knowing what's going to happen. Or maybe someone would say, you know what, I copied you in that.
There's a lot of, if you search for somebody called Hannah UBL, she's a consultant, and once we had got her to speak about, and one of the topics, she's a very intelligent human being. One of the topics she spoke about once on a keynote was bury the hustle, which is people who wear being busy as a badge of honor, as something that makes them superior to others. And it is naturally ego boosting to feel that you're busy and you have stuff to do. I feel guilty when I'm not busy, like when I don't have stuff to do, I feel guilty.
And also when you feel that you are wanted, that you are needed.
Because people react to, so your time is limited, so now I'm going to be even more eager to speak to you because your time is limited.
And making other people dependent.
Yes. Some people do it just for that part, literally just for that purpose. Because if you come across as desperate, people just, your respect level automatically, like your market value as a human being within that community drops. I've seen it because I used to tend to make myself available as much as possible, right? Granted, I am a bit of a people pleaser sometimes, but I did make myself available to my team as much. I constantly checked on guys, are you okay? Do you need anything and all that? And I could feel that the way they reacted to me was very different to the way they reacted to managers that were busy, right? So you need to kind of swallow that ego a bit, yes, to be a bit more supportive as a leader, but then your bonuses are going to be bigger because your teammates are more likely to, or your team are more likely to perform because you're giving more support and more time. So don't kid yourself saying you're too busy to do something, because if it was really important, you would have made time for it, right? It's the same with your kids. So because we're about to wrap up because we're going for a bit too long. But if it's the same with your kids, if they're really, really important and you want to spend time with your kids, you'd make time. If your partner really matters to you, you'd make time. If your physical fitness would really, really matters to you, you'd make time to train. You'd make time to eat well. If you really enjoy video games, you're going to make time to play video games.
Same with leaders. Leader would make time for his people.
Exactly. So if you really are truly interested in your team's performance and not your personal advancement within the company, you would care about your people. So be genuine and care about your people. If not, then maybe, leading people is not the right thing to do. Maybe you're better as an individual contributor. But it's really important to evaluate that and have that self-awareness and that level of accountability that you've been put in charge of other people. And, I've experienced bad bosses, you've experienced bad bosses. It takes a toll on your mental health as an employee, right? So you are now responsible for the mental health of other people. So exercise empathy as a leader and realize that it's not just you anymore.
True.
And I think that's just really a big lesson to take away from this conversation. It doesn't matter how busy you are. You will make time if it makes sense. If you're too busy, hire somebody else to help you or figure out what you're doing wrong. You shouldn't be. And
I think we conclude this. Richard Branson says this. If you want the way you treat your people, they will treat their people.
Yeah, and their customers.
And their customer eventually. So I think that is really powerful. So if you have a one-to-one with your people, prepare for it. Give it the right amount of respect. If you're going to postpone it, give a valid reason. Don't just chunk it at the end of my to-do list. You know what, I'll do whatever and then I'll find some time for you. What message are you sending your people? So I think people need to understand that the more we spend time with people, let's call it wasting time, because there's actually not productive, the more the people are productive.
Absolutely. As a leader, everyone, if you have a team, you are in the people business. That is your currency.
And hopefully your team functions as good as well without you, which is a very tough.
Yeah. And if you don't know where to start, hit us up.
Yes.
We'll help.
Thank you, Daniel.
We'll support. Alex, listen, thank you. It's been a really good chat, and it's been really organic. It's one of the first episodes in a while where I did not prepare anything because I knew it was going to be a good talk anyway. Because we're
I got you to be a bit vulnerable as well.
I'm always vulnerable, but yeah,
a bit more.
You did not make me uncomfortable at all. Just so you know, I'm an open book, man.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm an open book.
I'll try hard.
Good questions, though. Really good questions. You did make me open up.
Thank you.
You tried to make me uncomfortable, but you failed.
Try.
So, no, thank you for coming. Thanks to our sponsors, as usual, for supporting us. And, like and subscribe for more. We've got some awesome guests lined up. We'll have Alex again, for sure. I need to figure a way out to have you more on this podcast. I do enjoy your company. I'm not sure if you can tell. But, yeah, thank you for coming again. Hopefully this one makes it to the video.
Just enough.
Listen, I have one more question to ask you. I usually close with a question, but we've already asked you that in the other episode. If you had a time machine and you had to go back 4 years to Alex opening up, Alex Falzon training and coaching, what would you give that Alex as an advice?
I think it's an advice that someone gave me at that time, and I would give it to myself again. I said, trainers need to be trained. Coaches need to be coached. I think, and mentors need to be mentored. So I think that is something which I keep close to heart and keep reminding myself: am I being coached enough? And am I being trained enough? Do I have a mentor? And I think that keeps me grounded. That keeps me wanting to evolve. And because you might get bored of listening to Alex Falzon, but if Alex Falzon tries his best to become a better version of himself, maybe you're getting something different over the years. So I keep that in mind because I would like to evolve. It's not just what I started off with and it stops there, but I would like to become a better trainer, a better coach, and hopefully a better mentor. So,
great answer. Thank you for that. Alex, thank you for being on the show.
Welcome.
We'll hope to have you again soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.